Welcome to IA 107, and here we're going to talk about how to resolve word problems. I'm recording this section a little bit after the previous portions of this class were recorded, and I wanted to create a methodology that anybody could follow, and it pretty much matches the links for the videos that I've also provided, which are other educational videos describing how to address word problems. So word problems often create an issue for otherwise very, very smart students who are maybe very good at math, but by putting it in the form of a word problem, it causes them to fall short in understanding how to connect that description of the real world situation with math. And so that sort of connection is critical if you're going to be effective in the shop, if you're going to be effective in mechatronics or any of the trades, because in those real world scenarios, they don't offer you a problem to be solved in a textbook. They offer you a situation that you need to figure out and how to apply the right formula and the right values in a way to solve the problem effectively. So I've decided to put together this video to describe that process. So I'm going to share my screen here, and let's go through this presentation. So we're going to be solving word problems, and one of the videos that I provided you goes through its own process, but this site, the Teacher Next Door, came up with some very, very basic strategies, 7 strategies that anytime, you might want to just print this out and list these, anytime you run into a word problem, remind yourself of these 7 strategies. Number 1, read it. Read it all the way through and then think about it a little bit. That's 1 and 2. Number 2, write on the word problem. You don't necessarily have to write on the word problem, but write things down. You can't do this in your head. Write out what you need to do. Number 4, draw, and this is very important, draw a simple picture. Sketch it out. If you are thinking about the force applied to the end of a cylinder, then draw a cylinder. Show the force pressing down on it. These are all critical things to do. Number 5, estimate the answer before solving. In other words, if you can ballpark it in your head, chances are will be able to figure out what the answer is pretty quickly. Number 6 is check when you're done. That's always important. And the last one is practice word problems often. That's sort of a generic response. Now, when it comes to manufacturing world, I'm going to say always include the unit of measure. And you should always write down the unit of measure as part of the answer. That's really, really important. Sometimes you'll have to assume a unit of measure. You know, if we're in an English world, you're going to be using US standard for most units of measure, like pounds, inches, feet. So you're going to have to come up with an assumed unit of measure for what you need to come up with. Second thing I'm going to give you about shop specific is visualize. Visualize the process. And finally, sketch it. I'm going to repeat that sketch over and over and over again. So here are your steps. Step 1, identify, right? Your first step is, what is the problem asking for? What is the specific solution? And what is the unit of measure? And part of that, you also have to list all the information you already know. So between what you know and what you don't know, you can come up with the formula, or formulas, multiple might be required, to determine the answer. Then that gives you to strategize. So as part of your strategy, think about how you're going to get from what you know to what you don't know, and select the 1 or more formulas that you need. And I'm suggesting, in worst case, type it out in Google. Type out the whole problem in English in Google, and it will potentially give you a good answer. So the third step is set the thing up. That's lay out the formulas that you need. The fourth step is solve, plug in the values, step through the 1 or more formulas you need to solve. And then the last step is check. Check against the real world, check your math, make sure your unit of measures all check out through the process.